Bring in Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host, Football Night in America, has done a wonderful job covering the John Gruden situation here. Let's go back to Friday, Mike. We got the email, what John Gruden said about DeMaurice Smith, the head of the NFL Players Association, and I was told at the time it was a slow play, that there were going to be other emails about John coming out, but I'm wondering, he was going into that Sunday game against the Bears, figuring he's going to win, he's going to be 4-1, and maybe he's going to survive this. What did you hear on Friday that subsequently led to what happened last night?
Well, as of Friday, there was speculation on two different fronts. Some people thought the league was determined to get John Gruden, and that's why this one email out of 650,000 had been leaked when it was. And the other theory was that the perfectly timed release of that document, given that at 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday, DeMaurice Smith was subject to a vote by the NFLPA Board of Player Representatives. He needed to have 2/3 of them say yes at a time when it wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. There is a belief that the league was trying to help him keep the job because the league doesn't want a new executive director. He's been there since 2009. They've gotten things done, and the league doesn't want that to change. So there were two competing theories, and it's possible they're both accurate, that the reason for the first leak on Friday was to save DeMaurice Smith. And then the other materials were sent on Friday to the Raiders. We didn't know what they were. Mm-hmm. I think what the league was hoping would happen is that Gruden would decide to walk away, or Mark Davis would decide to fire John Gruden without additional documents being leaked. And when Gruden was defiant, when Gruden showed no indication he was going to do anything along the lines of standing down, that's when they leaked more of these. That's how it's being played out, and that's how people are responding to it. And it really is stunning, Dan, that Gruden, the metaphor I've used is the first torpedo hit the hull, and he tried to fix the damage when he knew damn well there were other torpedoes in the water. That's when you abandon ship, but he waited for the other ones to hit. And I think it made it much worse for him to have these others come out Monday. I think if he walks away Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, these other ones don't come out.
Yeah, that's what I was told. But I'm also curious about this, and we're all in agreement that you can't keep John Gruden as your coach when these emails come out, what he said in these emails. How did the emails get leaked, though, Mike? Who's leaking? This is an NFL investigation into the Washington football team. I'm curious about that as well.
Well, and this is a subject that makes reporters very antsy because we don't like it when people speculate on our sources. But Dan, let's be realistic. Do we think that the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times were going through dumpsters or hacking computer systems or developing top secret sources that they met in parking garages and they didn't even know who the person was? No, this is something someone wanted to be made public. This was deliberately leaked. And Peter King and I were debating this earlier this morning, not on the show, just, back and forth. How did this get out? It's possible that there was some rogue employee of the league office that decided to do this on his or her own after seeing the contents of the emails. But if that's the case, we'd be hearing that the NFL is dismayed that someone had violated protocol and leaked these documents because there's 650,000 others that are in an underground sarcophagus, never to be seen again. That's what's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. And it's not defending Gruden. It's being fair to the fact that they managed to hide the entirety of the Washington football team investigation. They leaked the outcome of it on the perfect possible slow news day, the Thursday going into a 4th of July long weekend. By the time we got to Tuesday, nobody cared anymore. How in the world do they have a multi-month, more than a year investigation, and they don't even have a written report? Why? Because they didn't want any of that stuff to come out. But now we have an agenda, we have a reason, we have a purpose, and we're going to just peel off a couple of these pages to get what we want while the rest of the 650,000 emails will stay secret. That's not right. And I think it's time for everything to be put out on the table so we can see Dan Snyder's emails to Bruce Allen. I wonder what's in those. We can see other people around the league who've communicated with Bruce Allen. Maybe people in the league office have sent emails to Bruce Allen. Let's see all of it. You can't just see a little piece of it. It's just not fair to the story to only share a little piece of it.
Is there going to be anything that has to do with Daniel Snyder and the Washington football team? Is this over now?
Well, it's only over if the NFL successfully turns the page like it did in July. And I was stunned that by the time the 4th of July weekend came and went, people weren't continuing to pound on the table that this is wrong. We've seen these reports that were more than 100 pages long with Deflategate and the bounty scandal. There was all sorts of information released. The bullying scandal with Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin from 8 years ago. And now nothing. There's no written report. There's no information that's going to be made available. But I think this breathes life into that. That's where the league miscalculated in using just tiny little pieces of evidence to get what they wanted with John Gruden and or to protect D. Smith. They've opened the door to a renewed push to say it's only fair that we see what Dan Snyder sent to Bruce Allen or others. It's only fair. And I'm hearing from so many people who are readers and viewers who are fired up about this. It tells me that it's not going to go away anytime soon.
And I said that John is collateral damage because it felt like the investigation is over here. Hey, we can take eyes and ears off the investigation and we'll just put it on John Gruden. And that's what I find kind of hypocritical here. You want to fire John Gruden? Fire John Gruden, but be fair to one of your owners, Daniel Snyder. And I don't. It doesn't feel like the NFL was being fair.
And they weren't going to suspend John Gruden for a couple of reasons. First of all, I read the personal conduct policy very carefully on Saturday. I don't know what's in there that you could even use if he was even employed by an NFL team. But these emails that we had become privy to were all at a time when he wasn't working for the NFL. And I think they didn't make a move on him directly because they knew his first defense would be, why are you only focusing on the emails I sent? Let me see all the emails. If he had some legal proceeding against the league, he'd be entitled to all of them and see everything. And then once they're out in the open, who knows where they end up. So I think the league wanted to get Mark Davis to fire him, and they were going to keep leaking emails until Davis fired Gruden or until Gruden walked away. And my guess is last night when they met, Davis made it clear to him. And this is just it's just more speculation than anything else, but I think it's commonsensical. Davis said, hey, if you don't quit, I'm going to have to fire you. So Gruden chose to quit.
Okay, but why is the NFL out to get John Gruden?
Well, John Gruden is not the kind of guy that's going to have a lot of friends who rush to his defense. Now, I know some people have, but for the most part, John Gruden is a guy that the league office doesn't like. And as someone that the league office doesn't like, I can relate to that. But the thing is, I don't work for the league office. And he's always complained about something. He's always been, I doesn't like this rule, doesn't like this procedure, openly defied the mask requirement last year in the regular season games and was fined multiple times for it. He's just become a guy that they don't like. And now they had this fall into their lap. And again, it all may have started with this idea, we can save DeMaurice Smith. But then once you start looking more and more, you realize, hey, you know what? We also can bring down John Gruden. And all it takes is one person in a high position of power or influence who doesn't like somebody. And if you've got the ammunition that John Gruden has given to you through his own actions, it all comes together and the dominoes fall and John Gruden's done.
He's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host and, of course, contributor for NBC's Football Night in America. Career-wise, what's next for John Gruden?
Well, he's only 58 years old, so I don't think he ever coaches again at the NFL level. I think it would be hard to sell him as a college coach somewhere, even if he would have the patience to coach in college. He was always very good as a broadcaster. I don't know that a network hires him, but 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. But time passes, wounds heal. A lot of it depends upon what he does to earn redemption, to earn an opportunity. But we've seen people come back from all sorts of things, and I can't rule out anything. It all depends on what he wants to do. He may decide, I'm done with this crap. I'm done. I've made enough money. I've reached my limit where I can just go live my life, and I'm just going to go live my life and leave all this crap behind me. I could see him having that attitude.
I mentioned about the Colts with Carson Wentz and the number of snaps he has to take, the percentage that will move a second-round pick to a first-round pick, conditional. If you're the Colts and you are, 5 or 6 wins after, 12 or 13 games, can you see an organizational tank where you have a healthy scratch with Carson Wentz, so you keep that first-round draft pick?
I don't think that it would be that blatant. I think Carson Wentz would be injured. I think that's how they would do it. I think it's a hard sell to your fan base if you just fold the tents because you want to keep your higher pick, although most fans would understand it. We get into the whole integrity of the game. You know, every year when I see the draft order starting to lock in, I say, hey, what is the team that's got 2 wins doing trying to win on the final Sunday of the season? Look what it did to the Giants. They beat Washington a couple of years ago in a great overtime, meaningless game. And Washington got Chase Young instead of the Giants because of it. So, and the NFL will say, oh, no, every game has integrity. And so I think the Colts, if they did it, Dan, it would be more subtle than, hey, we're just going to bench Carson Wentz because we don't want to give the Eagles a higher pick.
I know you've mentioned this before and mentioned it recently. At what point do the Browns go, is Odell Beckham worth it? Like, they don't need him. Like, they're a running team. He's not healthy. I think it brings out the worst in Baker Mayfield because he's always trying to acquiesce to Odell Beckham to keep him happy, get his touches. But do you think that Odell Beckham is on the trade block or could be?
Well, I think he should be. I think he should be. And maybe the Browns are trying to be subtle about it. And I can't imagine Odell Beckham Jr. wanting to be there when you consider they scored 42 points against the Chargers on Sunday and he had 2 catches for 20 yards. And for the first time that I can remember during his time with the Browns, there was no question posed to Baker Mayfield after the game about it. There was no question posed to Coach Kevin Stefanski about it. He'd become an afterthought. And that's not what Odell Beckham Jr. wants to be. Dan, I think it's time for them to get what they can and move on. You didn't even see on Sunday an effort to incorporate him into the game plan. Last year, Stefanski would get him remember the game against the Cowboys? He was running the ball. He caught a pass thrown by Jarvis Landry. He was really involved. They know they don't need to do that. The team has evolved past Odell Beckham Jr. That was a John Dorsey experiment. They need to find somebody else who thinks they are a game-breaking receiver away from being whatever it is they're trying to be and get the most for him and move on. It's a $14 million salary. I think it makes sense to move on.
But if you're Aaron Rodgers and you want to find out how much clout you have in the front office, is this where Aaron Rodgers goes, hey, I want to be involved in these situations. You know, I got Randall Cobb. Now I want to go for the big ticket item. How about we bring in OBJ?
That would be something. I don't know the Packers cap situation off the top of my head, but again, you got to absorb the balance of the $14 million salary, and you can come up, you can create caps, but you can wave a few magic wands and restructure if you really want to do it. But whoever takes on Odell Beckham Jr. has to understand that you're taking on Odell Beckham Jr. You're taking on the persona. You're taking on the expectation. And maybe that has died down given the injury he suffered last year and the fact that he is basically irrelevant in Cleveland. But so much of the problem in 2019 was we got to get the ball to OBJ. We got to get the ball to OBJ. And no, you throw the ball to the guy who's open. If you focus too much on one guy, you're going to disrupt your entire offense. So it's got to be a team that really feels like they need that number one receiver. And they already have it in Green Bay and Devontae Adams.
Great stuff, Mike. Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dan.
That's
see you, pal.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk.